Hello, everyone. Let us discuss one of the most topical issues around the elections in Zimbabwe. Um, it is the impact or the importance of the characterization of Triple C as the same old MDC of Morgan Tsvangirai and a puppet of the West. Today, I want us to explore the validity of this claim, where it emanates from, and how possibly it can be cured. Okay, let me start by saying the effect of this characterization, if a party is characterized as a puppet, it feeds into the national security question. What it simply means is that anyone who is a puppet of the outside world to any government, to any organization, is not regarded as a part of the process. So, in essence, if Triple C is characterized as a puppet of the West, then that means the security establishment of the country is obliged not to recognize it as a Zimbabwean party. And that is critical, that is crucial, because if it's not recognized as a Zimbabwean party, then it cannot participate in the Zimbabwean discourse. But somehow you find that the hands of those in authority are tied, because in one vein they have allowed that party to be registered in their land, and then they allow it to operate, and so at the end of the day it becomes like it's a contradiction. But everybody would know that if someone is deemed to be an enemy of a family, even though they can be allowed to go inside the house and talk to the people, everybody in that house will be keeping their guard very high. They don't let their guard down. Right. So this characterization is quite critical. It's very serious in terms of whether Triple C will ever be allowed to govern or to take state power in Zimbabwe, even if they made amass a considerable amount or the majority of votes. But what's the background to this characterization? It was expected that Triple C, uh, as a so-called new baby, it was supposed to depart from the old ways of Morgan Tsvangirai's MDC of 2000. So the unfortunate part of it is when they launched, well, they say they haven't launched, but whatever term you call it, when they introduced themselves to the people of Zimbabwe, Advocate Chamisa made a monumental mistake. Monumental. Because he should have learned from the Morgan Tsvangirai led MDC and all its formations that the main issue that kept them out of power was the legitimacy issue. Legitimacy in terms of them being a legitimate Zimbabwean opposition party. And they were characterized not as a legitimate Zimbabwean opposition party. Why was that? Because they called for sanctions on Zimbabwe in 2000 through Morgan Tsvangirai. And those sanctions stayed on through even the government of national unity. They never managed to shake them off or to actively campaign against them. So they wanted them to stay. So by and large, the security establishment of Zimbabwe has made it clear that as long as they are linked to foreign powers who have imposed sanctions on Zimbabwe, in this case, the Americans and the British, they will never be regarded as a truly homegrown Zimbabwean party. So as a result, state power, or specifically the state presidency, is regarded as a straitjacket. They will never access it. And one would have expected Advocate Chamisa to be aware of this monumental characterization. And that was supposed to be the first thing he should have avoided his new party to be regarded as. Unfortunately, he didn't. So what was he supposed to do in short? He was simply supposed to denounce the sanctions and apologize to the people of Zimbabwe for ever advocating for those sanctions when they were still in the MTC, and to clearly call out the British, especially Tony Blair, on reneging on their promises to compensate white commercial farmers as enshrined in their discussions at Lancaster House. So he was supposed to call them out and say they made it very difficult for the people of Zimbabwe to move forward, and they don't support that position. And should have even gone as far as to call upon the current government, the British government, to consider fulfilling the promises that were made at the Lancaster House agreement. Why? Because chaotic, it became a fast track because of that betrayal. That is very clear, and that should be called out. So if Advocate Chamisa had made that clear distinction from the onset to say Triple C does not subscribe to sanctions, does not condone the behavior of the British, and avoid advocating for the use of the United States dollar as a matter of strategy. You don't call for a foreign power to be in charge of your economy by using their currency. That is equivalent to treason. So even though it might happen in forced circumstances, like during the GNU and hyperinflation, but you don't call for it as a political party position. So that was a big mistake, because by so doing, you are alienating yourself with the local authorities of your land, particularly the security establishment of the country. Again, I don't know whether it's immaturity or it's oversight. How do they sing a different national anthem during their rallies? They're singing Ishekumbure Africa in place of the Zimbabwe national anthem. Hey, I don't even know how to call that, except to say it borders on treason again. So chances are they might even bring up a new flag. You can see the trend. So in that regard, they did not present themselves as patriotic Zimbabweans. So to make matters worse, he then goes on to say, once I'm voted into power, within 5 days, varungu vanobva vazara munyika with investment. That was a monumental mistake, again, showing that the solutions you have are not homegrown. You don't have anything except to hope for those people to rush and come in and fill in the spaces. So you're playing into the notion that all along they are sabotaging the government in a way to force regime change, so that when there's a new government led by the opposition, they will come in within 5 days. Investment decisions cannot be made in 5 days. It's not possible. So saying that means, so these people are already waiting on the wings. They've already made the investment decisions. So it means you are actively working in cahoots with these same people who had the advantage of being in charge of our land for long periods of our history, who were the owners of the companies. So the history of that misalignment with the aspirations of the security of the country, that makes the whole issue a security issue, national security issue. It's no longer an issue about elections. It's no longer an issue about civilized debate. The context has changed. And that is critical for anyone in leadership to understand that context is key. Anything that you discuss or say or do is defined within a certain context. And first of all, you make the context right, then you go into the discussions. So the context is completely dangerous. Once it becomes a security, national security issue, then it doesn't matter what support you can have. If your organization is characterized as a national security threat or as a puppet organization, then you have lost it. Because all the other instruments of government, be it SEC, be it police, be it the army, they are all mandated to look after the sovereignty of the state and to look after the national security interests of the country. So if you are regarded as a threat to the national security of the country, then those bodies can never do anything in your favor. So it will be a waste of time to think that ZEC will do anything to help you, or the police or the army. So Advocate Chamisa missed a big, big opportunity to rebrand and bring forward his party as a homegrown Zimbabwean party. Let me just comment and say, in my view, the support base that he has, the people that support him, he was never going to lose them really if he had done what I've just said here. So the fear that if he part ways with the West, then he will lose support. It doesn't happen, because already the people are inclined towards change. In any case, they want to see change. The majority of the supporters, they want to see change. It doesn't matter what form of change it is. So there's momentum there in favor of change. So he was just supposed to manage the expectation of change and the process of transition in a clever way. I can see there's a lot of intelligent people in the ranks of the opposition, there are a lot of lawyers, but what I have observed is that there is definitely a lack of wisdom in terms of strategic planning, because you fail to identify the basic pillars of the situation in Zimbabwe. So the basic pillar is that you must never again be, and they also removed former President Mugabe. And that consistency will not change. So if you are characterized as a national security threat, then you can be assured that the security establishment is not going to recognize you. But where is it all this coming from? It is genuine because the British have been insincere, have been prone to cheating. They cheated through Rhodes when they cheated Lobengula. They said they were coming here just to be business people, explore for minerals and go. And then they ended up using the right concession to get a charter to actually become settlers. So they got title to the land through the back door. They cheated. Then at the Lancaster House, Mugabe and Nkomo were not prepared to sign that document except if the land issue was resolved. And then the British cunningly, through Lord Carrington, pushed for a 10-year ban or moratorium on land reform, except for willing buyer, willing seller. So they said, okay, for 10 years, you don't do any land reform, you don't take land from the whites, you only buy which they want to sell at the price agreed. After that, as if they really wanted that to happen, but they were just buying time. The idea was it would never see light of day. And when they got the opportunity, Tony Blair flatly refused. And when he refused, that was betrayal of the highest order. That is not ZANU-PF's problem. And that blame should be squarely on the British government. And when they reneged, then the government tried to make it legal by passing a law and proposing a constitution that was going to allow land redistribution without compensation. And then they rose up in mass and they opposed it. And then they took over a gullible opposition who were innocent at that stage. They were immature, and they took over that opposition. So the issue of external interference, it is real, it's not imagined. So the Triple C should know that by now. It's not an imagination of ZANU-PF, or is it a fabrication? It is a reality that there was internal interference and there is internal interference, and they called in for sanctions, and they should have put this matter to bed in the inclusive government, and they failed. And now, more spectacularly, when they formed a new party, which was supposed to be a new baby, they kept the very, very same pillar or structure of their identity, which is to keep the sanctions, to support the sanctions, and to denigrate the government. So instead of declaring enmity against ZANU-PF, if they were truly new, because this enmity only comes from the outside influence. Local guys would love ZANU-PF for being an independent party, the independence bringing party, They brought independence, they brought education, they brought the land, they brought indigenization. So they're supposed to build on those strengths, not to waste every space they find to condemn and try to kill ZANU-PF. They are not perfect, ZANU-PF, the people, they are not perfect, but they are the foundation. Whoever has got a political party now cannot afford to denigrate ZANU-PF. You can only build on what ZANU-PF has laid as a foundation and then make it better and improve it. So Triple C is not supposed to be fighting ZANU-PF. It's supposed to be saying, we acknowledge and we thank you for all that you have done, but now it's our time. We need to move forward without denigrating. This is critical. Without denigrating and making ZANU-PF such a bad organization and corrupt and all this. Corruption is everywhere in this land, in this Africa and the world. There's nothing really that ZANU-PF does which doesn't happen all around the world. So the corruption will always be there. That corruption is also there in the MDC, is there in the Triple C. The levels are just the same. So that's not really an issue in terms of making it a point of hatred and bitterness. The British are on record to say, because of the sanctions, they're going to squeeze the people of Zimbabwe to a point where they will turn against the government. And what have they done? Because they've used the advantage of them having been the owners of all the major companies and all the farms, and knowing that the Zimbabweans had no experience as farmers, neither did they have the market, neither did they have the support of the outside world. So things naturally were going to fall down, and they did. So now the bulk of the supporters of the opposition are angry Zimbabweans who are bitter, who are responding and reacting to their suffering, and they don't understand that this suffering is caused as a way for them to rebel against their own leadership, their own African liberators. Somehow they don't see the hand of the West. They don't see the hand of the British in all this. All they see is the weaknesses and corrupt tendencies of ZANU-PF. Weaknesses which are there, but there are also some strengths. So at the moment, they are riding on this sort of obliviousness, because if I call it ignorance, people might feel insulted. They are oblivious of what is actually driving their suffering to the extent that now we hate our own currency, we hate our own national anthem, we hate our own president. It's actually hatred. It's not even what they want to call civilized debate. It's not even civilized. The people are angry, they're just insulting. No one is civilized. If you look at what people write on the social media and comments, it's just insults and insults. There's no civility in the country. So with that characterization, there is no way this Triple C is going. It won't help even to force and go for elections, and because nothing is going to change. Once you're characterized as a puppet, nothing is going to change. It's just it's suffer continue. So what Triple C must do, and advocates such Chamisa, is to try to cure this problem of this characterization as a Western-sponsored party, which they have not done anything to cure it. If anything, they've emboldened it. So the best way to cure it is now to go down and have dialogue with President Mnangagwa and try to work with him, not against him, while they heal that relationship, that part of the relationship, until there is mutual understanding. Only then can there be peace and development in Zimbabwe. So I hope I tried to shed some light and to this issue of characterization. And I hope they take notice.